So Dapper Labs are the founders of NFTs. In September 2018, our CTO Deet published the first smart contract protocol when NFTs were born. 5 years later, it really feels like you're part of building history. A little bit like I like to think about the early days of Google. So before Dapper Labs, I was at Google for 12 years. So when I joined Google, it felt like we're building something brand new from scratch. It's a bit similar here with Dapper Labs. You're surrounded by people who are true believers in the power of Web3 and what Web3 can do to change the digital economy and to change how users interact with their digital lives. So it's really exciting to be part of it. It's definitely a roller coaster. You discover new things every day, and your beliefs from yesterday can be different today, but I guess that is part of the journey of just building something new that nobody has seen before. Yeah, so at Dapper Labs, I started off looking after our global football partnerships, and as of recently, I've transitioned into looking after ecosystem partnerships across all of Dapper Sports Studio. And it's just the fact that within 6 months, you can absolutely just kind of do different things and get involved in something a lot bigger and different than what you thought it would be. That alone is really exciting. You can't really find that in a established company, but what really gets me up in the morning is just every day there is something that I contribute in order to build something brand new that the world has never seen. And it really is like an open canvas where you get to draw what's on that open canvas. So building an ecosystem sort of partnership playbook of how we interact with, how we improve composability on Web3 on top of some of the most well-established products in Web3 is incredibly exciting, and it's definitely once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The internet was sort of created, and the first mass use cases of the internet that really started about 20 years ago. We're definitely due for a disruption. Like, we are due for something new to come about, to create. And I think it's on one hand sort of how industries developed on Web 2, how the economic value really became consolidated with a few very powerful digital platforms on one hand, and on the other hand, on the user perspective, the acknowledgement that these digital platforms are so powerful. They know everything about you. It's sort of this feeling of, my data is out there, they know my data, they know who I am. And it feels like the world is it's users and companies, like everybody is looking for something that makes more sense, I guess. We're looking for the next thing that works better for the world, that will make the societies work better. And I think I'm not surprised that you see more and more interest in this, because I think, especially with sort of the recent layoffs of the big tech companies, this sort of disillusionment is starting to crumble a little bit, and we're ready for something that's different and something that feels very fair, kind of giving the power back to the users, where they can own their own data, they can own their own experiences. And that's what I think is happening on a global macro level. There's cycles in industries, and we are at the end of a very significant cycle. And the way digital economy has worked in Web 2, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable, and I have plenty of experience from my days at Google to see how unsustainable it is for a lot of parties involved. So I think we're due for something new to happen. And in this really exciting kind of tide, a lot of talent and brain is attracted to that opportunity, is attracted to that open canvas that it's up to you what goes on it. Then the final thing I'd say is technology is just technology. It's exciting for technologists, but for a mainstream user, they don't care about technology. They care about the products they get, the use cases they see out of this technology. Are their lives more interesting? Are they doing something more fun on the web? How is that technology changing their lives? So we're now in this point of time where people developers, builders, companies were trying to figure out what is that use case that the mainstream user is going to find incredibly attractive to start to get to that mass adoption. We're not there yet, but I think that's why specifically this time is really exciting. We're away from the hype, we're away from, the speculative nature of hypes. They always come with new technologies, with new exciting things. There's always the element of the hype and the speculation and the early adopters, but kind of past that. And now we're in the area of trying to find real value, for users, for companies, and that's where it gets really interesting and exciting. Well, the way I'd answer this question is I'll ask them, go back 10 years ago, and do you remember the market for MP3s? Do you remember when we talked about MP3s? Does anybody talk about MP3s? No, we don't. And what we do instead is music. So I'm a huge music fan, and I listen to Spotify all the time. Music has become a huge part of my life because this new technology made music accessible to me. I find music every day without really working hard. It would be absolutely impossible for me to do that before MP3s. It's the same with NFTs. MP3s, GIF files, it's a piece of technology that will eventually create or can change your life. Absolutely has the opportunity to change your life, as MP3s did for music and for music fans like me. 10 years ago, I didn't even know I'm a music fan because there was so much friction to discover new music. And now music is a huge part of my life. So to translate this back into NFTs, if you ask me today what NFT is speculative and what NFT is not speculative, well, it's difficult to say because we haven't seen the mainstream use cases starting to come through. What some early signs of things we're seeing is we're definitely seeing gaming adoption. Gaming companies looking for new business models and new ways to engage with the gamers. I'm personally quite bullish with the idea that NFTs can absolutely empower this new level of fan engagement. And in sports, fandom in sports is such a powerful construct, but it's so hard to monetize. And this will allow sports leagues, rights holders to find better ways to monetize sports fandom, but more importantly, it will give sports fans much more meaningful ways to express their own fandom. And then how that is going to happen, we're all experimenting, we're all trying to see, how exactly that will come about. We started at Dapper Labs with digital moments and digital footage, but it's just genuinely the early beginnings of that journey. Powering a membership program or a loyalty program of a sports fan that lives continents away from Liverpool, and there's no way in their life they have a chance of ever visiting the Liverpool Stadium in person, right? But they can still now express that fandom and find that passion for the club they've loved since a child. That's really powerful. So I think that's where NFTs become not a market, not an industry, but they become a vehicle to creating new fan experiences the world couldn't create in the Web2 environment. I will start with the biggest challenge is educating mainstream audiences of what that means. 20 years of living on an internet where we as users, A, we are used to free products, but B, we don't realize that these free products are not free products, they're powered by our own private data. And the concept of owning your digital life is incredibly abstract still. So getting through that sort of that abstract concept and putting that into a very tangible, realistic sort of use case, that is going to take time and education and a lot of persistence. So that is probably the challenge. The opportunity in Web3 is something very close to what I'm currently doing and thinking a lot about, is this concept of composability in Web3 which we haven't really demonstrated. But the fact that in any application that sits on the blockchain is an API in its own right, that you build something interesting and then developers can come build on top, and then just the level of innovation that this can create and the exponential power of development and innovation that the blockchain-based technology can create, that's absolutely incomprehensible sort of in the traditional Web 2 tomorrows. And I think that's where, because innovation is not a big IP brand sitting there and like spinning an innovative, team and thinking of different use cases. I mean, it can certainly happen there, but what we've seen in the past is innovation comes from a developer with an idea that no one would have ever thought about. It's the small developer, the small creator. It's the everyday person that can right now on Web3, they can build. The friction building is far removed because Web3 allows for composability. So this is where I'm particularly excited. That's actually where I spend more of my time right now in Dapper Labs. So